It was on my door. My daughter did it. And it was on my door, but because it closes up and nobody can see it, so we thought, we'll bring it out here and put it in the lobby where it could be seen.
Really not good at that stuff.
Not either.
Yeah, Maddie did that.
Yeah, Maddie. Good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday, December 20th, 2023 at 10 a.m. Harney County Court will begin session, come to order, whatever. You'll stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Yes, it is. All right, so we've already taken care of the accounts payable stuff, agenda approval. I have one comment about the agenda before we get going, make sure it's okay. The very first topic under old business is county court board appointment process. And I put that under old business because we had discussed it in general discussion last county court. So if it's okay, we'll leave it under old business or we can move it to new business, whichever you think.
Old is okay with me.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure, clarify that. That's the only comment that I had about the agenda. So unless there's anything else.
I don't have any changes now.
Then I'll move to approve today's agenda for December 20th, 2023, Harney County Court.
I second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve today's agenda. Any further discussion? And hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, I mentioned it earlier on the audio recording, but since we started the video recording, Commissioner Shellman texted and indicated that she was going to be running late for I think, family issue, transportation issue or something, whatever. Anyway, so present is Commissioner Doro and myself right now. We do have a quorum and she is expected to arrive anytime. So we'll just go ahead if you want to. Is that okay with you?
Yep.
Okay. Next item then is minutes approval for the December 6th, 2023 county court session.
I move to approve the December 6th, 2023 Harney County Court meeting minutes.
And I will second it. And motion's been made to and seconded to approve December 6th, 2023 county court minutes. Any further discussion? And all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? And hearing none, motion carries. Opportunity for public comment. Would anybody like to address the court? And seeing none.
Actually, I would like
Okay.
to address the court. I was hoping that I wouldn't have to be the only one.
Okay, so state your name, please, for the record. And
Tim Alden, and I'm just here with concerns of the county court and the direction that it's going. On the agenda, the county court board appointment process. I feel that that's a continuation of your overstepping your control. The reason you have boards within the county is so they can do what they do and you can do what you do in a supporting role. And basically, the word on the street everywhere, almost every organization you work with, is that you're overbearing. The two of you bushwhacked Kristen a couple of months ago with your accusations of the fair board not being transparent and not involving you. Bill, I've seen you at multiple meetings where they were very involved with you. You were engaged in conversations. So I don't know if you are having trouble like remembering that, or if you just have your own agenda that you're just willing to just push and drive through no matter what else goes on, because it's bizarre, honestly. And Patty, I haven't seen you at those meetings, so maybe if you were there, you would have been involved, but I thought that was completely out of hand. Kristen has worked her tail off to be, she's largely, has credit for getting the grants that the Fair Board is received for the projects that they're doing, and she's involved in everything in the community. Nobody has anything negative to say about her. She's a positive person in our community. I was on the school board at Sylvia's River with her. She meets every adversity with positivity, grace, determination. And I haven't seen anything like that from you, honestly. Only thing I've seen from you is negativity and accusations of people doing things dishonest and going behind your back when it's all out there, it's all public. And I'm really disappointed in you personally. I'm disappointed in you that you would do that to Kristen when I haven't seen you involved. I haven't seen you there. The opportunity's there. There's plenty of people that come voice their opinion. And I feel that with all the things that I'm hearing, not just the Fair Board, but the Sheriff's Office and the Health Department, and the complaints that I have, you're jeopardizing our county government. I don't understand how you're gonna have qualified people that want to work with you or willing to work with you after statements like you made about the Fair Board at that meeting towards Kristen. Because if I was treated like that, there's no way I would even consider working with you. And with this, desire to have more control of who is put on the board, it's already in place. There's already policy. It's worked for years. So why now change it after you're going on Facebook and asking people to put their applications for the Fair Board directly to you? How much control do you want? I think the county would be very wise to start a recall and do it fast before you have the opportunity to do more damage to our county government. And I think you do the county a service if you would resign quietly. That's my comment.
Thank you, sir.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
that. Any other public comment?
I'm here to support Kristen, and I pretty much agree with what he said.
And your name, ma'am?
Melody Molt.
Thank you. I knew that, but just for the record. Any further? Any other comments? All right. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Appreciate them. So then we'll move on to old business, and that takes us to the first item, which is county court board appointment process for all county board and committee appointments. I had a little bit of a prepared statement on that. I must have left them on my desk. No, I'll just go on without it. Anyway, so in the past year, I've myself, I'm gonna start out with comments, and then we'll go into discussion. Commissioner Doro, if you'd like to make any afterwards. I started out a year ago in this job, obviously new, and I took a role or a process of observing processes and procedures instead of coming in and trying to make a whole bunch of changes right at once. Some processes, some procedures work and they're just fine, and others, I believe, after watching and observing for that year, that some changes need to be made along the way. And this is not a rebuttal, but just in my statements, the reasons why I wanted to have this topic of county board appointments is because we have appointed in the last year 3 to 4 positions on different varying boards. Of those 3 to 4 people, I've only seen one of them come before us. Otherwise, it's just a name and a piece of paper that we've been appointing people to. I think in our due diligence as a I think as a county court and our obligation to fill those positions, it's our responsibility to do our due diligence in appointing people to these boards. In some cases, these boards are advisory. And I want to make sure that those advice, the guidance that's coming from those boards is actionable. Other instances, such as the Fair Board, which there's many members of the Fair Board here today, after appointment, those individuals take on authorities from our Oregon revised statutes that then the county doesn't have any control over anymore. So to ensure that the people that are on those boards are working in the interest and in concert with the goals and the culture of Harney County, I think it's important for the county court to take a bigger role. I'm not talking about taking it all over. I'm talking about taking a bigger role in the selection and appointment for these boards. Oregon revised statute 565 says that the court will appoint. That puts all the power of appointment on the court. Now, I'm in our conversation last county court, at the very end of it, we discussed this briefly in general discussion, general deliberation. And at that time, I asked if we could change it and do it that way. It's the way it used to be done in Harney County, I'm understanding. And but then also not to exclude the boards. I never had any intention whatsoever to exclude the boards, but after reviewing, to get recommendations from the boards, and then we could make a fully informed decision on the appointments. When we left the last meeting, it was a consensus. Everybody agreed that was fine to do, and that we might have to have an evening meeting somewhere along the line to have those individuals come before the court and maybe speak to the court a little bit and then make an appointment. And that's what we left the last meeting with. After that, there was supposed to be some advertising that I had reached out to find out if it had needed to be done still, and didn't get any reply. So I went with what we had discussed and what we had agreed upon at the very end of the last meeting. And that's why I put I don't like social media, but I put a comment on there just to send them to the county court. And if we would have had our executive assistant still, then that email address and point of contact would have been that person. But in absence of that person, I put myself on there. It wasn't an attempt to grab power or take over or anything. It's just a focal point. I wish we had an email address in general for Harney County Court, and then that would be the focal point, but we don't have. And every email address that we create costs us money, so I'd rather just use the existing ones we have. I think that, and this is not singled out to any one board or anything. It's what I want to do, or what I would like to do, and I'm proposing to do across the county for all board appointments. We have another one here from another type of appointment, concurrence, that we need to address today at the end. So I think it's incumbent upon the county court to do that due diligence in making these appointments.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, normally this is not a debate, and I don't want to turn it into a debate, but I'm open for communication, and I don't want to shut anybody down. So please do.
And I agree with what you said, the court is the ultimate appointment, but aren't you putting so much extra work on you guys when the boards can decide who they want to work with and give you a recommendation? I mean, the way we've always done it, and then you ultimately will appoint or not appoint the person that the boards are recommending.
But what do we have to go on in that appointment? I mean, in the past appointments that we've made in the past year, it's been a letter of interest, and that's all we have to look at.
All in check, to the face, it looks like that, but as the liaison to those boards, I do receive appointments from the court, because I do happen to be going to within that. That rules committee, which you didn't want the court to approve. There was a lot of robust discussion in each of those committees, as those letters of interest component and vetting it all about that. And, because the court doesn't come to all the meetings that I come to, because I am the liaison to them, and, they're open public meetings. They don't always get in on that part of the discussion, but I think part of it, and this is why I chose the when we didn't have an administrative assistant, the county council was asking them to file it there, and as I did not go with the decision of the body in the end, and I chose to advertise it how I had normally been advertising these positions, and since Lindsay's been fair manager, she has been handling that, and so I did direct her to go ahead and advertise that as it had been, and I did not feel after thinking about what we discussed in our last county court meeting, and I was not good at communicating this back to my peers, but it's also hard because to communicate with them requires a public meeting. Our process is very funky. I also felt that Commissioner Dora was making insinuations that I was not bringing forward all the letters of application that have been received in the past. I found that offensive, to be honest. I think that it's undermining of the volunteers. These boards, volunteers that we have in this county are few. It is so dang hard to find people willing to serve these capacities. And I absolutely agree with what you're saying. This governing body needs to get out of the weeds. We need to be able to work on topics and discussions in areas that are more incumbent in the governing body and the levels that we are overlooking in so many ways. A board appointment does not have to become a thing, and I think we're making the thing. And it's not just them, like, our communication needs to improve. But I do feel like the proposal that I gave in my response in the email, I prefer it's the path forward, but whoever the liaison or county staff that works with these boards or committees should be the party responsible for taking on the duties when there's a vacancy in an open position. I don't think we need to make it a more formal process of the court. And put them from the court, and there's so many other things that the court is getting to. We are not doing a good job of getting to so many higher level issues. And volunteerism is something that I feel like since I came on, it's thrown into this room over and over and over with the pain. And we need to let that take place in a more natural setting within these boards and let the boards be a bigger role and doing their due diligence and finding people that can help serve on this. And I do think that as a body, we are in charge of appointment, but it doesn't make us in charge of the process if we don't want it to. And I personally don't want it to. I personally feel like we need to get to higher issues. And these are ones I'm starting to get very frustrated with, but it keeps becoming my thing.
Commissioner Dole?
Feedback is a gift. You don't always like what you hear, so thank you, everybody. Thank you. I'm very open to clarifying a process, and let's do this process. And if that means the process is more like what you're proposing, that's okay. Let's have the other boards and committee chairs or staff involved in it, and let's just get that done. I would like to see longer period of time for the opening of advertisements seeking appointment, and not to rush it unless you don't have a quorum, you and any of the boards. This is a holiday season, you know, let's give people the opportunity to see it, because I just think when we rush, there might be a person or two that might have thrown their hat in the ring too. I'm all for, moving toward these types of things. I'm very open to it. But I will say that it was disappointing over the last year when almost nobody that we appointed to these committees was able to come.
Can you go to them?
Did you reach out? It was on the agenda, and Commissioner Shellman would say, you guys know him, or I know him, he's good, you know, I mean, it's not like I would not take her word for it, etc. But let's get the process so it's efficient. And like you say, you know, let's work out a process. I don't need to necessarily hear the whole conversation of a board. Are you guys, you know, our board's basically going to be kind of interviewing the candidate, you know what I mean? Let's make it efficient and that it works, so everybody's comfortable with it. And let's just try better to get whoever's appointed, if they can, to spend 10 minutes, you know, be heard in court, be seen in court, be thanked for it, and be appointed. if we can. It's something we lost and it was a good thing. More to come. I'm happy to work with all and make this better. I appreciate it. And I do agree that, and Judge Hart and myself and a couple of our elected officials, and I'm pretty sure Commissioner Shuman's, had these conversations. It is the intent of the county court to work on the bigger things because we've got a lot of bigger things we gotta work on. And again, we're gonna be doing that, so.
Nice to see that.
Yeah, and it is gonna have to be a series of public meetings that are pre-advertised because when we meet it is, you know, even two of us, it's considered public, you have to advertise public meetings. So we will do all that because we got it. Yes.
So as somebody that's been on a bunch of different boards here in Harney County, my experience has been, the only time those positions get filled is when you go out as a board member or Kristen has been the biggest influence in this, in my experience and observations. And you have to recruit people. We're not, it's not like, we don't have a bunch of people throwing their name in the hat. We just don't, it's not happening. It's through due diligence and persuading somebody over time. I'm currently working on a couple of people trying to get them involved on a couple of boards myself. It has been a small, drawn out process to get them sold on it. A big part of it is what he said earlier, is this sense of like micromanagement would be an understatement. I mean, it really.
If I might
I'm hearing you.
add to that, I've been asked if I would be willing to, because I have a background in livestock, I have a background in marketing, and might have some real assets for the fair and fair board and the events that are put on there, with my business and in history. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm hesitant. I don't want to, have the stress of the fair board that's been put on them and have tomatoes and vegetables thrown at them all the time. If you people will not support the board, there's no way in hell you're gonna get anybody that wants to do that job. And I would love the opportunities that our fair has. I was just in Salina, Utah, and visited Burn Saddlery. There's a town of 2,700 people, and they have 135 people building saddles, boots, custom hats. And I toured their factory and their storefront, and they said they had, the largest stock of this in the US and the largest stock of this. And I said, do you have that many cowboys that shop here? And they said, well, most of it's driven from the event center that we put in. We've got an indoor arena and we hold all sorts of, ag events there. And we were the biggest supporter. They put their personal money down to drive traffic to their business, and they're killing it. And if you guys squander this opportunity for Harney County, we will feel the effects of it for 100 years. And I feel like that's what's going on. And I'm terrified that you will just dismantle this whole blessing that we've had. In the Central Oregon Rancher, Primeville's begging people for money, advertising to build an event center, like we have the funding to do. And you were just setting up roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. I don't know if you guys noticed, but the weather's pretty darn nice right now. We could be doing some things, but we've had continual roadblocks in front of this deal. And so, that's where I'm at. I mean, I'd love to support and encourage people with positivity, but it's like, you're literally walking into a situation where you're gonna get called all sorts of things that you're not. You're gonna be told that you're not being transparent when you're being transparent. You're gonna be told that you're being unethical when you're being ethical. And I would say there's some of those accusations that could be turned around. And if all the boards in the county and all the county government is feeling the same pressure, and wise man once told somebody, if everybody around you is a problem, you should look in the mirror. That's what I got to say about that.
I'd like to say a couple things, and I appreciate you said this is an open discussion, but that you allow some of us to speak, because I think this is important. But I'm the chair of the Ford Fair Boards. My name is Craig Neer, so it's on the record. And I want to say on the record to you, Judge Hart, that as being the Fair Board Chair, you said that that you don't want the only role in choosing members, but you want a bigger role. Well, there is no bigger role than accepting all of the candidates and choosing. That bypasses us. So as me being the chair and trying to find people to volunteer and do the things we're doing. And this goes to some of the things you said too, Patty, you're making it more difficult. Bill, I'm sorry to say publicly, but I think you're becoming a really good politician because you're saying one thing and doing another thing over and over and over again. And we can go through all the details and you can disagree with me and that's completely fine, but there's a great process in place already and it has to do with your colleague and she's compiling information and bringing it to the courts. If you don't like her or like what she has to say, that's on you guys, but she's doing the work. And a great job. And so for us to be on the board and try to find people and get them to be involved, and now we have to say, well, it's a fair board once a week. Now you're gonna have to go to a fair board meeting, you're gonna have to sit in front of them and you're gonna have to talk to them and like, you're making this harder and harder and harder than it needs to be. Like, I'm on the fair board, so I know how it is. It was pretty easy for me to get on there. So if you want to change this process, you're gonna make it more difficult. So once again, you're saying that you don't want the only role, you just want a bigger role. Well, I think we've got a pretty good role in place right now. Like the fair board will collect the people interested. We'll vet them and ask questions because we're the ones that have to work with them, not you. And then we'll give you a recommendation along with all the candidates. And then you can pick whichever one you see fit best from your position. That seems like a great process. I don't think we need to waste any more time of anyone to reinvent the wheel when we already have a process in place. So I'm confused by the things that you say and the things that you do.
Because everything you just described, though, is more than what we're currently doing and have done. Because the only thing we've had is a letter of interest from, like,
What else? do
the
you
last
need?
appointment that we made on another board was a letter of interest. We asked to be, I've never met the man. I don't know him.
Did
That's
you
on
call
you.
them?
That's on you.
Yes, we did.
Okay, there's your opportunity to vet them and talk to them.
There you go.
He never showed.
Well, then that's.
But
That's
because-
Hopefully-
but because
that's
there
all
was
I can.
a, so because there was a pressure to appoint, we go in ahead and did it with the caveat that the individual would come at a later date, and he never has.
I was chosen by the board, I think by all three of you to be on the fair board. And I had plenty of conversations with what my responsibilities may or may not be with Commissioner Shellman. And so she was my person that explained to me what the duties are. And then I spoke to other fair board members and explained to me what their duties were and what kind of things to expect and what kind of goals we're trying to work on. And all that vetting process took part by the people who were doing the work. That was all of us. And that's what makes us work so well together, is that we figured that all out amongst ourselves. So if you're not gonna be Holy King Gale of Harney County, then you would certainly come to me and say, hey, Craig, this is the person that you and your board thinks is great to be on the board. Could you tell me about that person? And I would say, yeah, they have an experience in fair and livestock. They're the perfect person for the position and we can work well with them. But you're trying to circumvent that, Bill,
Oh, no,
by taking
because-
in all the people. Well, you continue to do one thing and say one thing and do another. So I'm just letting that be known in open court, so all of Harney
Well,
County.
and did
is
I, in
fair.
the email that I replied to you back, say with the recommendations of the
But
appropriate
it-
boards, right?
Of course. But why then?
That's
do you-
interaction. That's what I'm looking for.
Why then do you need to have all of the control over all the applicants? Why can't they just come to us? Once again, this is what makes us volunteers' life easier. If Lindsay gets them when we're already having fair board meetings, you're making it more difficult. So now you get the candidates. Now you gotta email them to someone else, and now we gotta get them, and it's this big lengthy process. Those are the kind of things I'm saying. You can make our lives easier as volunteers. Quite frankly, Bill, you don't know a whole bunch about fairs or livestock or rodeos. So why not?
And I haven't tried.
Why not interact with the people that know all about those things? You come to us and ask us questions. You continue to say you want open communication, yet you continue to do things behind our backs or behind closed doors. You didn't call me up. No, you sent me an email at 5:22 on a Friday that said you wanted me to call Lindsay and take off the freaking posting of where we were putting the deals up. That wasn't open communication. You didn't call me and say, hey, how do you think this is gonna go? Do you have any good candidates? You're not communicating. That's all I have to say on that. I'm not gonna have a one-on-one argument with
I'm
you
not
in
either.
open court, but I'm very disappointed in how you continue to interact with us as a fair board, Bill. I'm very disappointed.
I'm just gonna say one thing to that email that you mentioned, and it was based on, like I said, the discussion that we had at the last county court and how we were gonna proceed with appointments. That's what I was working off of.
I look forward to us having a 5-step, 4-step, 3-step, whatever the process is. Lindsay, do you have time to just say, advertise, what you think the process should be, since you guys are in the midst of it and have a lot of, thoughts on it, and just say, one,
Do you want me to tell you right now what I do?
if it's not too lengthy, I'll
No,
take
that's fine.
notes. No, not just what you do, but how it should be, for you and all the boards.
So as a board, we obviously. we
So
know-
advertise, and that comes from the board. The board advertises.
The board advertises, we know our vacancies are coming up because we track our terms. So it was early December, when we started to put those out and talk about them. We talked about them in court when Bill was sitting there. Nothing was said, so
Okay.
we advertised.
I just want your steps and how they should be.
But there's some additional information that
All right,
probably should deal with.
okay, all right,
Open communication, right?
yes,
So 1, advertisement. 2, it stays open. I am already scheduled to go on the radio. It's already on the newspaper, so we use multiple outlets.
so when you decide a closing date, what's your thought on how
The thought
long to
process
run
on-
it, or should it be open to filled, or what?
We have 2 weeks out there, and I think it's appropriate that's how long we post.
I'd like it to be longer, that's just my opinion.
So if we have it out there, was it 2 weeks that we have it? Maybe
Maybe.
it's then 3. But it closes on the 2nd. You have same as the NRAC board and the other one. And then you guys have a county court on the 17th. That gives us 1 week and a fair board meeting to vet our candidates, have our discussions, receive all of the letters. I get those.
And does that happen during a fair board meeting?
Yes, always has.
All right, so you advertise, the board, meets, interviews, and discusses the candidates.
It closes, I email out all applicants. All applications. We meet at the fair board meeting, discuss.
Okay.
And we invite our applicants.
And then, when the board has its recommendation, how do you communicate that to the county court?
Either myself or Craig takes that.
So, and do
Or-
we see the letters of interest? Do we
Yes,
get to
because they
see
get
them?
emailed.
When do we get to see them?
When I close an email to the board, an email to the board. And they post them included in their packets. There's
Pardon
just
me?
different very many. We've always included in the electronic packets. There's just rarely been one.
If it can just be like the memo, this is a recommendation and the letter, so we have them to look at. That, otherwise, we wouldn't need to appoint anything that's already done at the board level.
But she just stated, and in my experience, this was music, so I've been here, this, all of those were presented to the court, but the problem was at times, there's just say. one
Most of the time, there's just one
applicant.
applicant.
So
I agree.
it's hard to have it with more.
Well, you just say, the fair board recommends this person be appointed, and we see the letter. That stuff can be tightened up. Okay,
But I don't do that. Assuming that it hasn't.
Well, there-
not.
there were times when we said we haven't seen the letter, and you said, oh, well, I'll email it to you.
And I've shared it with you, I've handed it to you before, I've never not given you the letter.
I know, I'd like to get it before the meeting, before the county court,
Oh, there-
in case I have a
usually
question.
there's a brief, because, part of it's just knowing the community.
I know.
And-
So
I'm just saying, I'm not trying to get into discussion on this, that's fine, the process so far that you're recommending and that you guys do is the board is aware of an opening, they advertise, when they have however many or few applications they get, they communicate with that individual to come to their meeting. At that meeting is when they see them, ask questions, hear conversation, whatever, and then the board discusses and makes a recommendation that will come to the county court, whether it's an email, a letter, whatever you guys decide it is, right? And then we'll get it scheduled on the county court day for an official appointment. Am I leaving out anything?
No, that's how we've done it in the past. And that's when you have staff to do that, is when the board, and which doesn't come up to a point until July, just for fun, but then vacancy on the Wolf Committee meetings is needed, so because I have a set meeting schedule. And I am on the Wolf Committee and also part of that. And so I worked with the chair of that, and so instead of having staff, a lot of counties, to be honest, have a natural resource staff. Harney County does not have any committee, so it has those following through within a member of the governing body and taking on a very staff-like role. The things I do for the Internet and Wolf Committee are much more like a staff position than a commissioner position. It's all in how the commissioner chooses to take that on. And I feel like it's one of those situations where we can make it as clunky or as easy as possible. I try to work very well with those boards, but if you also end up helping them with all the agendas, you do a lot of legwork because these volunteers, either one, are in order to process the interact has not been in the county very long. We're very fortunate to now have a fully functioning internet. But most fully functioning interacts in other counties also come with the staff to help them keep them. And so there's a lot of things that fall in the role of the commissioner if they choose to take that on that are a little bit above and beyond what a normal commissioner role becomes. And so in interacting with that, I usually do take on the vacancies or appointments of that and handle it more internally because it becomes very clunky if I try to do anything other than bring a decision of that communication from that body back to this board. And so I personally, I feel like I have enough on my plate too, than to need more letters. I advertise it. We receive the letters, we discuss it with the body, and I bring it back with, this is who put their name in. I explain to you about this person, if they're able to be there that day or not. I don't feel like they need a public vetting in so many more ways. Like, you've got to trust the work of me as an individual, but also the bodies that I work with, without having to make them come and do a more public display. People just are going to avoid that because they feel like it's just not necessary. And they are working directly with you guys on these issues. They're advisory to us, or they function under a statute. Wolf Committee functions under the ODA statutes. The Fair Board functions under an ORS. The NRAC is advisory to the county court and works with all the federal agencies. It is a lot for these volunteers to take on in capacity. And I think that putting more trust in those that do put their names forward. Yes, Michael Doman didn't come. He's a busy contractor. And he got caught up at work and never came in front of the county court to serve as our wolf advocate for the county. Do you know how many months it took me to achieve anybody willing to be called the wolf advocate in this county? Well, now we have another one open. Do you know how long it's going to take me to convince someone to wear that hat? It's not easy. And I just want to say it's not easy to get volunteers to serve because there's a lot that comes with it.
Well, yeah, competent qualified people are already busy. They're in demand, especially in this day and age. And so when you add additional obstacles and irritations and just ridiculous trying to justify and explain to folks an area that may not make sense to them because it's not a world they live in, when it just further slows the process down. Like if this building was a private project between Craig and I, this sucker would have been up and cash flowing by now.
See that your guys' is building that, it stops like moving on.
I can say that I have real challenges being completely from the private sector my whole entire life. The government adds more time and money to everything we do. As you guys, as me being a citizen of the county, I hope you hear that and do as much as you can to minimize the bureaucracy and the money and time spent at a county level. That's what I feel like your job put forth in front by the voters is to do, is to minimize bureaucracy and time and money. As my position on the Fair Board, coming from a completely private sector, and I can see how easily and fast things can be done, how effectively and efficiently things can be done, and then have a position in which I have to follow different channels. It takes more time and more money to do the same amount of work. And my position as the fair board chair has been met with more headwinds than tailwinds. I don't feel like the hard decisions that we're making are being met with ease. I don't feel like I'm being addressed with things of how can I help you? I'm addressed with more and more roadblocks.
I feel the same way.
The-
I've been here pretty much the whole time.
The issues of proceeding with the building, with this capital project, are set forth in Oregon statutes. None of it's county policy or ordinances. It's state law that we have to follow in
You're
procurement.
aware of that, Bill. The problem is a lot of this stuff could have and should have been out for permitting the civil long ago. It could have and easily should have, and it was because of addressing well-trodden paths, trying to catch certain people up to speed. That threw a massive roadblock into this project. We should have been doing stuff by now. That was totally possible, being completely compliant to all of the rules and regulations that govern this.
So you're saying I held you up. Let's just cut right to the bone.
Yes, most definitely.
I haven't done anything to hold you all up. I've been attending your meetings to listen where you're at and what the processes are and what you're doing, because that's the only way I get any information is to attend your meetings. When I first started, yes, you guys had a meeting to catch me up with where you guys were at in your planning process. I implored and asked that the public be involved in that process. But at no time anywhere in there did any of my actions prevent you from proceeding.
We could sit and debate this and I could call that into question, I think, fairly easy, but like you say, this is not the time nor the place.
Well,
I believe
you
I
have your
can
say,
make
so
very
I want to make
different
sure I have
points.
my say on the record as
No,
well.
that is perfectly fine, dude. But as he said, you have been nothing but an e-brake on this whole process and project.
Well, I'd like to say that I listened carefully and I'm going to take your comments to heart and try to make sure we can be lighter where we can be lighter for sure at this level and let you guys do your jobs well and feel supported. So I'm gonna do my part.
Thank you. So,
So
moving forward, path forward. I'm sorry, did you have something?
no, let's just, make sure that we talk to all the boards, make sure that they're all gonna use the same process and let's just do it.
So my intent today was to discuss this, not to really nail down a process or procedure. So having that in mind, a path forward, then we will continue the discussion with,
If you want, I'll write up a memo, see if it captures it, and then for all the different boards and committees, we're all liaison to different ones, we can just put on their next agenda and just make sure everybody feels comfortable with it and then put that one to bed.
This involves all the boards. A question that I have, or maybe not a question, but a caution. Oftentimes when volunteers get involved with these boards, there's a lot more dynamics and mechanics and information to digest. And a lot of things going on that when people dip their toe in and start doing it, they don't understand it there. So the one thing I would caution, I heard you mention a couple times, extending that to a longer period. I advise caution not to extend that into the side that these people have to get their work done and move forward, because I would imagine every board member that I'm working with could agree. There's a pretty sharp curve into getting caught up.
What
And
would
the
you
longer
recommend
you,
in general, or did you think?
the longer
it's
you kick it off to
board
the other
specific?
side, the longer it takes to catch people up to speed. That costs, if we only meet 12 official meetings a year, that might cost us 2 of them just catching a person up to speed if they're appointed on time. We stretch that appointment out even longer, it puts us back even further. All of a sudden you go off a
Okay.
quarter of a year.
Uh,
So I understand what you're saying on trying to get all the applicants you can that are
just
positive.
Make sure the
I
word's
would
out.
just be cautious to not hinder the board to be able to make process and have to catch back up.
And that's where I think the minimum of to posting, trying to get paper twice. And the radio, social media, to the radio. Is sufficient so that we don't overextend time in this.
And I think there's adequate time out there for people that choose to be involved, you could wait forever for qualified people in this community to get involved. The fact of the matter is, there's not that many of them out there that are willing to go through this,
Thank you.
and it's not gonna get any better if we continue down the same route.
I hear.
So we'll continue to follow up on this and work on it and develop a process.
So for now, with the fair board appointments, they come to our office and follow procedures that we've done.
We'll continue status quo for now then.
Position is considered the people who needs to be sent to vacancy. On the low kind of position to them, and so if any parties aren't interested, please let me know. And it will only be one more time before I turn anything first.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, then we shall move on to new business. Harney County Library update, Cheryl Hancock, please.
No, I'm not gonna talk about boards. I am gonna introduce a board member. This is Doug Bird. He's on the library board. Would you take a minute though, because not all boards are appointed. Would you please just explain to folks how your board is, how you staff your board? Because there is nuances within the county and how boards are organized or staffed. So if you could just take a second to touch on that.
Well, we have a very tough time staffing our board, as I do everybody else does. We put an ad in the paper, we send it out in our newsletter, we put it on our website. And sometimes we get someone who's interested, and sometimes we don't. So when we get someone who's interested, they come to a board meeting. They meet with the rest of the members, and then they go away, they give us a letter, and then they leave, and we have an executive session. And the board determines whether to appoint. And then the appointment by the library board comes to the county court as a recommendation. But, we've had a board that was lacking a member for a couple of years. So it's pretty difficult. That's everybody thinks.
It's very important.
And we will ask people to sometimes just in hopes that they're ready to do it, but we don't always.
Which is also very difficult.
It's similar to what you, Commissioner Shellman, mentioned. The last time I recall, since I'm on that board, is it was a person who was seeking reappointment in this case. They were already they sought to be reappointed, and it was discussed, and the library board said, yes, we support that. And so it was an agenda item on the county court. And I think Cheryl may have come in, but between her and me, we represented that, this person was seeking reappointment, that the library board was in favor of that there were no other applicants, and they were seeking county court appointment, and that's how it was. Which is similar to what you all are talking about, right?
So we're always very relieved when someone relapses. So anyway, to talk about the library itself, I just want to talk about some things we're doing today. So you might have heard of our library of things. We received we became a pilot project for a grant funded by the libraries of Eastern Oregon for food preservation equipment. And we purchased 14 items, pressure cooker, pressure canners, scales, dehydrators, apple peelers, all kinds of things. And those can be checked out. I brought some brochures so you can look through and see what we have. We also, in our library of Queens, have hotspots, which are extremely popular. They're checked out for 3 weeks.
They bring the internet to your house with your cell phone, and they work in many different areas of this county. We had 20 to start with, and that was grant funded. We've lost half of them. We just purchased 5 more, so we have about 15 right now.
And
Yeah.
Cheryl, when they just never come back, is that what you mean? And you disconnect the service from them, correct, right away?
I'd like to send share. We also purchased a couple laptops and a tablet for checkout. And we also have a telescope, so I'll leave these brochures up front if anybody's interested in looking at that. I am also on a committee with Commissioner Doro, that's looking into the broadband for the county. I must admit that I get lost a lot in all the acronyms that they throw out. But the one thing that works for us is the Affordable Connectivity Program. This is through the federal government, through the FCC. And what they do is they offer a $30 a month discount for internet service, a $75 a month discount if you're on tribal land. And this has to be done through a registered provider, which my wave is the only one in town that is right now. But we're giving these out to everybody that checks out hotspots so that they're aware that this program exists. And I think the county needs to get that information out this.
And I thank you because our broadband action team is highly technical in many levels at this stage of the game. And Cheryl is one of our that members. And I've told her, hang in there when it's all that technical stuff that's kind of even over my head at times, because you play a role in digital equity, which is something all the applications require, is that we're doing things like that. And you're right, you guys are doing it. We're gonna put Harney ESD in the schools as well as senior center and places like that to just keep getting the word out that there's already these programs for people who have financial, if that's their barrier to being connected, then there are some programs there that they can apply for that.
But it is going beyond that because they're working on infrastructure, which brings the county in, which means the county should be in the lead of this whole big push to the internet to rural communities. So another thing we did, we have what are called OBOB teams. That's the Oregon Battle of Books. It's a team of kids who read a specific list of books. And then in March, they all meet in Bend, in our region, in Bend, to battle it out. And so they sit and they answer questions about these books. So every year we have an art auction and people donate pieces of art and craft materials. And people come in and it's a silent bid. So we made over $1,000 this year on our art auction for OBOB teams, and we have 2 full teams that will be sending in March. We also just received our new workstations for children. They're all-in-one units. They have really colorful keyboards, and they do not go on the internet. They're loaded with educational programs. We got those through 2 grants. One was from a local member of the library, her family, as a foundation, and they gave us part of the money. And then we applied to the John Eldred Foundation, and they gave us the other money. So we were able to purchase 2 of those workstations, and we just set them up last night. Can't wait to have the kids get on them. One day in November, our phone started ringing off the hook, and everybody wanted to talk to Karen, our archivist in the Western Region. I know this is kind of strange. And so in the afternoon, I went in there to talk to her, and she said that we have been invited, the Harney County Library, to participate in the Southern Oregon University Youth Program Scavenger Hunt, which is done, it's done every year, and the kids are given questions, and they have to get the answers by doing research or calling archivists. And so one of the resources that those kids use is our new combined collection between the museum and the library. It's a website. And so it includes things in the museum and in the library. And this is where you can find it if you're interested. You can use those as well. I am sad to report, though, that this program has come to a screeching halt on the museum side because we have no one over there who can do the work. We continue to do the work for the Western Room, but I'm not sure what's going to happen with the museum side. We are also doing all the book cataloging for the schools right now because they did hire a new librarian, but she's not certified. And so she's going back to school, she's getting teaching food and then a library certification. Meanwhile, they're ordering these books and she doesn't have time for the training. So we're doing it and we're invoicing this registered work. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about is our Monarch mural. I don't know if you've driven by the library lately, but on the west side, we have a new library park that was all paid for by grant funding and foundation. And we decided we would like to take one blank wall of the library and put up a mural of monarch butterflies. So we have contracted with a local artist to do that, but it is going to cost $4,500. So that is part of what we're selling items at the library to money to fundraise for. And there's another issue, we need to paint that wall before the mural is put on. There are other parts of the outside of the library that really could use a painting job. I don't have enough in my budget to do the whole library. So I'm kind of putting it in your laps to see if you think that's something that the county could provide. It's the outside of the library.
So do you have an estimate for what those would cost? Have we explored the foundation? The library foundation, is that right?
Explore them.
Yeah, I mean, as far as asking them for funds to help in that process?
But they'll help with the bill.
Okay, Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cheryl.
any further discussion on the library? Next topic is county court discussion regarding what temporary action to take on future county foreclosed lands. The sales of foreclosed lands. Because of a case ruling in Wisconsin, I believe it was, and affecting Harney County or affecting Oregon. Potentially right now, any land sales for foreclosed lands by the county, past owners, their heirs, anybody could come back and make a claim for anything in excess of what the back taxes and fees and everything were. It's expected to be taken up in the legislature during the short session this coming year. And in the meantime, it could cause a lot of nightmares. If somebody files a claim against a piece of property that we sell, and it's already been distributed to all the different taxing districts, and to get all that back is going to be an accounting nightmare and processes to everybody, creating a lot of work. I would propose that we just have a moratorium on any future county land sale applications until the state decides how we're going to deal with this. If it might come out that funds have to be put into an account for a certain period of time, awaiting somebody to make a claim, and then it could be distributed to the taxing. I'm just shooting from the hip on what the legislature could come out with. But there's a lot of other questions that go along with it, like what are going to be acceptable fees? What if it was in county ownership for 20 years and we had to manage that land for 20 years? What kind of fees could go along with that would be reasonable for the county to claim? And then that would be excluded from any excess profits or earnings or sales receipts on that property. So there's a lot of questions, a lot of things that need to be outlined and addressed. Otherwise, it could be a very big financial hit on the county. If we were to sell some major pieces of property for higher dollar amounts, and then it gets distributed to the taxing districts. And then we have to dip into reserves or whatever to pay those claims back.
What's the downside of doing a moratorium, if any?
Just properties not being put back on the tax rolls.
There's this case that is leading us from the big action on it. And so, sadly, that opportunity for the county can be missed because somebody that might have been in this, the county would say, go back on the tax roll. By the time all this gets decided in the legislative process and through the court system, we could lose the opportunity to, one, sell partial land, and two, get back on the tax roll. And so, it's going to be impact at the county level, but it's unintended consequences, as well as the fact that if we were to have to go back, even 1 year, have to go back on any county land sale and change how we distribute the funds, it could be a very detrimental thing for all counties to deal with. The short session is for fixes. I sincerely hope we are working with our legislators to make sure that they actually get in the short session and make a fix. Because if they don't take action on this, it leaves the county in a precarious position. And so we will have to pause all potential county land sales at this time,
I mean,
just to cover our own selves at this torture.
We've already been, just like you see on the TV for legal firms that are reaching out for people for asbestos, poisoning or whatever, the Marine Corps ads that we've all seen. The county has already been probed by legal firms asking for sales of foreclosed properties in the last couple of years. So it's out there.
a couple questions. Have you had time to be in touch with either the Association of Oregon Counties on this or other counties that your colleagues in other counties to have a discussion yet?
Not very much, because nobody knows really what to do. There has been, I want to say it was Douglas County had created kind of an internal policy. But it's just local policy. It could be overturned or, could be.
So a moratorium, if we did a moratorium, it can be rescinded at any time that we choose, right? We could just do a moratorium for now.
Yeah, a form of a pause.
Yeah, I think that would be wise at this point. Just choose not to put them up for sale rather. But maybe just say it for the record so people can
I mean, 'cause
understand.
The county has the ability to accept applications for sale or decline. We don't have to put property up for sale.
I think it would be too hard to try to take back money or make up the difference if this case stuff ruled out and all of a sudden the special districts and the county had to pay back money that we don't even have in the budget. So I think we kind of have to for now.
So however we phrase it, a pause or a moratorium or whatever, it's just that well, let's do it this way. I will make a motion that the county does not accept any applications for sales of county-owned properties
Until further notice.
until further notice.
I second.
The motion's been made and seconded to pause all county land sales until further notice. Any further discussion? And hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed? And hearing none, motion carries. All right, next topic on the agenda is a vacate request from Downs, from family named Downs in Fields, Oregon, at 22250 Fields Drive. Do you have that? letter. So this is a third one that we've had requested in just the recent past, and we haven't put it all together because I was waiting on this one. So we do have request for vacate in the Wellington, right? Wellington town site, and then one in Hines, and then this one. So we were waiting on this one to really start to move forward on the resolution and everything to get it going. This is going.
Could you briefly say what a vacating property, what that means?
So there's a right of way for a road that's platted, and you can't use it, you can't build on it, you can't do anything on it because there's a right of way there. Somebody ever wanted to exercise that right of way. So if it's not being used, and in many cases, or in these cases, it's in situations where it's hard telling why it was ever even platted that way. And it's just property that you can't do anything with. You couldn't build a shed on it or anything else, but it's actually taking up a portion of deeded property.
Well, there are a lot of cases in this town, people have been on something, you know, areas, and that's when you come and ask to vacate from this, because they realize that people somebody shouldn't. And, you know, I'm not really cases.
Yeah, none of these are that situation. They don't have anything built on them. The one in the Wellington, I mean, my presumption is it would be hard to plant crops or anything there because it's got platted streets all throughout that area. And if you had crops or something planted on it, somebody wanted to exercise those right away somehow or another. And even for, I would venture to can say, for collateral even, you know, it diminishes the cost of the property. So, but none of these have any structures or anything on them. It's just they want to clean it up.
Thank you.
Yeah. Next item is resolution. You have the resolution.
So on that vacation request that you're just presenting it to add it to with the other,
Yeah, just as a record that it's been, the application is, or request has been received by the county. Any other discussion there? Next item, resolution 2023-24 in the matter of intrafund transfer of appropriations within categories for 911 Emergency Fund 223. This being just a little, let's see. I wasn't aware of this. I think it come in last week, and there was, did the generator go out? Is that what happened, Sheriff?
Are you talking bird speed?
I don't know. It just, I wasn't aware of any of the circumstances on it.
Phase 2 of the plan was to get a generator up at Burns View, because I think the one that is up there now belongs to the tribe. So outside the county's actual building up there, there's a pad, or a concrete pad already, and they were hoping to do a generator out there, and a backup generator, and maybe a propane tank.
Okay. I wasn't sure if there was an existing generator here somewhere associated with 911 that went down and it needed to be replaced or whatever, because it just, the resolution is unexpected generator expense. So and I'm aware of the transfer, the move of the communication site on Burns Butte, so that makes sense then.
so this is just a move, an exchange of the $20,000 from the materials and supplies into capital outlay to go ahead and purchase that generator. Is that correct?
Yes. So it'll be, I'll finish reading it, but I was trying to get a little background there before.
Was Bobby Jones.
No, it was pretty straightforward. She hadn't indicated that she was going to, so.
Yeah.
The resolution reads, this being the 20th day of December 2023 and the day set aside for regular meeting of Harney County Court, and there being present William Hart, County Judge, Patty Dorrell, County Commissioner, and Kristen Shellman, County Commissioner. And whereas ORS 294-463 allows transfers within a given fund between appropriated categories. And whereas such transfers must be authorized by resolution of the Harney County Court, and whereas Harney County 911 emergency had an unexpected generator expense and therefore requires the following changes in appropriation to the 2023-2024 appropriated budget to adhere to Oregon budget law. And now therefore be it resolved that the following category appropriations be adjusted as follows. 911 Emergency Fund 223, Materials and Supplies, at $64,300 is a decrease of $20,000. And capital outlay of $30,000 increase, which constitutes the increase of 20. So moving $20,000 from materials and supplies to capital outlay.
Question is, with that decrease in material and supplies, is that going to have an impact on what 911's got to do for the rest of the fiscal year? Anybody? No.
Not to my knowledge, but Johan and Bobby Joe, they're the main ones that talked about it. And I think it was decided to try and get it purchased now, even if Day Wireless can't put it in until spring, just because of the
Okay,
increasing costs of it.
thank you. Well, I move to approve resolution 2023-24 in the matter of intra-fund transfer of appropriations within categories for 911 Emergency Fund 223. As discussed with that decrease of $20,000 in the material and supplies line and an increase of $20,000 in the capital outlay line.
I have a motion to approve resolution 2023-24 and it's been seconded in the matter of an intra-fund transfer of appropriations within categories for 911 Emergency Fund 223 as described. $20,000 decrease from materials and supplies in that fund and an increase of $20,000 in capital outlay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? And hearing none, motion carries.
I'm gonna excuse myself from the rest of the agenda. Michelle, Merry Christmas.
All right.
Hope you feel better. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas and hope you.
Thank you guys for coming.
Next item on the agenda, discussion of possible decision creating RFI, request for information, to help identify broadband partners in the private sector. Commissioner Doyle.
So, as I work with the Harney County Southeast Oregon Broadband Action Team, which we have paid contractors helping lead this effort for us, they made a recommendation, which I will read, and I want county court to be fully okay with it. Harney County Southeast Oregon Broadband Action Team, or COBAT, and our GEODC Rural Prosperity Partners Technical Assistance Team recommend that the county court approve moving forward with creating a request for information, or RFI, to help identify broadband partners in the private sector. Several funding opportunities will become available to internet service providers in the next 12 months across Oregon, across all over. For competitive proposals, internet service providers need to demonstrate local community buy-in. For the county to decide which internet service providers we would like to support, and this is for future applications for the large funding in the next couple of years to come. So for the county to decide which internet service providers we would like to support, because they are usually on the application or we're a part of their application. A request for information is the process that was recommended and approved by the COBAT at our most recent meeting yesterday, December 19th. With county court approval, our contractors will move forward with this process and present an RFI for our review and approval in the next year. But they need to start working on drafting it, and they want to make sure that's okay. Any questions on that? It's really just probably didn't even have to put it for approval, but I like to do that to make sure everybody's knows what's going on. Well, then I would move for county court approval to move forward with creating an RFI to help identify broadband partners in the private sector as part of creating competitive broadband proposals for Harney County.
And just to clarify, that'll be conducted by our contractor?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, they'll draft it and it'll get presented to us, yeah. Remember that Lane County Council of Governments, during that week we were at AOC conference, that email went out all over the state for requesting, theirs was requesting proposals for internet service providers and people to say, we want to work on your stuff. That's the only one that's come out so far, but Harney County wants to get one out there too before the rush.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Did you let me, did
Yeah.
I just move, right?
I was gonna say, did you make the
I
motion?
think I did.
Okay, I'll second it. And a motion has been made to
Here.
approve to move forward with the creating the RFI request for information to help identify broadband partners in the private sector as part of creating a competitive broadband proposal for Harney County. Any further discussion? And seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And obviously note that Commissioner Shellman is excused.
I did.
Okay. And obviously opposed, hearing none. Motion carries. Next topic. Discussion, support for due process continuity of care act. HR 3074 and Senate Bill 971 and the Reentry Act, HR 2400, Senate Bill 1165. Commissioner Doral.
So there's one for you and one for Susan for the record, and I'll get. Thank you. This is a topic about Medicaid inmate exclusion policy and these matters, which I will read you part of this letter, but because I am somewhat involved with, at the state level with the Public Safety Committee and at National Association of Counties with their Justice and Public Safety Committee. This is something that has been being worked in Congress for a long time, and it looks like it's getting a little closer. And I think when I read it, what I'm proposing is that the county court sign on to a letter that I want to do in January, but I thought I'd get it to you guys early to look at it, see if you're okay with it. If you don't do it, I'll probably do it on my own as just a commissioner because I feel strongly about it. And I won't read the whole thing, but it's, and I propose that we send it to both Senator Wyden, Senator Merkley, and Congressman Vance, and work with your field reps to make sure it gets some visibility. So, dear Representative or Senator, on behalf of Harney County, we respectfully request your urgent support for bipartisan legislation that amends the Medicaid Inmate Exclusion Policy, MIEP. This harmful federal policy outlined under Section 1905A, subsection A, the Social Security Act, makes no distinction between individuals housed in jails versus prisons, and thus unfairly denies or revokes federal health benefits for adults and juveniles that are being housed in local jails prior to conviction. These individuals who are pending disposition are still presumed innocent under the United States Constitution. The MIEP causes disruptions in primary and behavioral health care access for justice-involved populations that are enrolled in federal programs such as Medicaid, Medicare, or the Children's Health Insurance Plan, CHIP. Not only does this discontinuity in care contribute to detrimental health outcomes for both individuals and their communities, but it also increases rates of jail recidivism. By contrast, uninterrupted health care helps those who enter the criminal justice system, break the cycle of recidivism exacerbated by untreated physical and mental illnesses and substance abuse disorders. I'm gonna jump down toward the end. Right now, Congress can build on these significant policy advancements, which I won't review, but I've researched. Right now, Congress can build on these significant policy advancements and pass bipartisan legislation that would greatly improve care coordination for those individuals suffering from mental health, substance use, and or other chronic health conditions by allowing continued access to federal benefits such as Medicaid, Medicare, and CHIP for eligible pretrial detainees in local jails. On behalf of Harney County, we urge you to support the following bills that would address MIEP. One, the Reentry Act, which would allow Medicaid payment for medical services furnished to an incarcerated individual during the 30-day period preceding their release. So before they get out, they get re-enrolled and stuff. So, because the first thing they're going to do when they get out is probably not enroll in things we urge them to enroll in. And two, the Due Process Continuity of Care Act, which would allow pretrial detainees to receive Medicaid benefits at the option of the state. And you still got to work on the state level, but this is the federal level, and provide planning grant dollars to states for implementation of the MIEP repeal. As we continue our work as county governments and local behavioral health providers to ensure better access to and the continuity of care in our communities, we recognize that these local efforts will be far more effective when carried out in partnership with state and federal counterparts. Thank you for continued service, et cetera. I would love to get you both to sign on to this and for us to get it there and for me to work the phone with our field reps on that stuff. And just see if we can move the needle a little farther. I know y'all are familiar with it. No, for sure, the Lieutenant Worley's familiar with it. Do you have any?
I think it sounds outstanding and I would love to see the county and then also our representatives support the bills moving forward. It's really imperative. Our recidivism rate is extremely high here. And part of the problem is we struggle with the wraparound services from them coming into custody to, re-entering back into our community. So anything that would help support us being able to get them, the medical service and mental health and addiction services while in custody would be imperative to our community.
And these are things they are eligible for and should be able to retain until convicted of something. And it puts the cost on us to try to help them where they really should be still being able to use the federal programs.
And just for the record, current process or current procedure is that as soon as somebody is arrested and lodged, those benefits cease.
Yes, and then the county, our medical budget out of the county general fund pays for any medical services or mental health services that are provided for us.
I totally support this and agree. And the one thing that stands out to me on this, and I might ask county council to weigh in on it, is, person's still presumed innocent until proven guilty. And they're basically being denied a right in that meantime. So if there's leverage that we could put on that statement alone, that might help push this, give more weight.
And if you come up with something specific, let me know. I mean, this is just a draft.
Does that also include veteran services as well?
No, not that I know of.
Okay, I mean, we've talked about this for years, but it's also, to our veterans that are arrested, they lose their veterans benefits.
I'll call the
And so-
guy at NACO and find out.
See if that includes veterans, because
Could you give your?
Lieutenant Worley, Harney County Jail Commander.
Thank you. I'll call on that and see if that can factor in. Anybody else? Appreciate that.
So definitely, I agree. I support. We'll get Commissioner Shellman's.
Once I get the answers to this and tweak it if further, if need be or whatever, then I'll send it out to you and Commissioner Shellman prior to the next meeting. If we want to sign it.
That takes us through new business. And next topic is public water notices. We have any water notices for this week?
Not this week, last week.
Well, you know, the one for December, this is December 12th, December 19th. I, as an individual, get it fit into my home personal email, so I already looked at it last night for December 19th. There was nothing for Harney County at all on that one.
That's why it's not on minutes or agenda.
Correspondence. I didn't have any correspondence to introduce for this court session. Scheduling. Any other meeting schedules? I don't have anything coming up.
Just a reminder that I will be zooming in for January 3rd's county court meeting, since I will not be physically here in Harney County that day.
And regular court dates. Next regular scheduled court date will be January 3rd, 2024 at 9:30 a.m. for accounts payable review and regular court session beginning at 10 a.m. And January 17th, 2024 at the same times. Late item. I have one late item that Mr. Shellman, I received an email yesterday from the BLM for, well, the top page is a sample for appointment or concurrence of appointment for Stacy Davies to the Steens Mountain Advisory Committee. And they provided basically kind of a resume and an application for review. He's been on Harney County Soil and Water Conservation District in the past, French Glen School Board, Harney County Planning Commission. And he also served on the Steens Mountain Advisory Council from 2001 to 2015. He's the general manager of the Roaring Springs Ranch. And it's not an appointment by the county, but it's just a letter that they requested. The top page is the letter, the sample letter that they requested just as a concurrence in the appointment.
I think he's a great candidate. So, do you communicate back to? Well, this was from Fred Otley.
Yeah, this is just a sample. They provided a sample letter of concurrence. This is previously one that was signed by Judge Runnels. And we just execute a new letter like this and signed it and sent it off in concurrence. So I guess basically at this point right now, if we just say that we're in concurrence of his appointment, then I can go ahead and drop this letter, sign it, and send it back to the BLM.
I'm in concurrence.
Okay, me too. So that is the only late item or anything I had. Do you have anything as a late item?
No.
General deliberations. I wanted to inform the court that we are in the process right now, hopefully today or tomorrow, getting ready to fly several position announcements for the position of health services administrator for Harney County, which is an umbrella position that will encompass the RHC, the Rural Health Clinic, Health Department, Home Health Hospice, and Home Health Hospice. And at the same time, we're flying the Home Health Hospice Director's position and a nurse position at the Home Health Hospice.
I've heard you've already offered that to somebody.
No, I haven't.
Why is there 2 emails saying that you have? Why is the health department reach out and wives saying you have?
I have not offered it to anybody yet.
Why is it already coming out of there that you offered it then?
I have no idea. Because we're getting ready to bulletin it externally to everybody tomorrow or
I'm
today.
just telling you what happened.
Well, I'll look into that because that's not correct.
You said here, everybody's here over transparency, and here you go.
I have not offered the job to anybody as of this date.
I guess you can check her email and see what you see, but that's where it's at.
Whose emails are you referring
My
to?
wife's.
I haven't seen any email about anyone.
I haven't. I have not received any emails from Commissioner Shellman regarding this topic.
Well, because you didn't send anything to her. You did it all behind her back, just like you telling everybody else that you don't want to tolerate.
This might be a rumor. This might not be a factual,
Just telling you what I've heard and seen.
I've not heard a thing about that.
I'm sure you haven't.
I have not offered the position to anybody.
How long have these positions been vacant?
The Health Department Director position has been vacant since before I took office, and they had interim.
Do on your part, maybe seek the fulfillment of that position? Doesn't that seem like a reasonable duty to you, a responsible one?
Yes. And I wanted to make sure over time and do it the right way and make sure that the structure that I was looking for was done.
How many months does it take to do that?
The duties are being performed. It's just that
Yeah.
it's not.
I'm aware, it puts an extra burden on other people. I'm aware of shit.
Well, actually, my predecessor proposed that the situation that I was left with be considered as the permanent solution of the two individuals that are sharing those responsibilities is what was recommended to me. And over time, that's why I've left it until I was able to, ready to act on doing something different. And I've had those discussions with those managers over there, what my ideas and plans were.
I wonder if those conversations.
Been similar to yours.
What seems to happen in my experience, the conversations we have face to face, not the public eye, aren't necessarily ones to get represented in meetings like this. There's plenty of times where and it's not just me, it's widespread, do not feel that you have properly and correctly characterized and represented what was actually said and discussed. And it just leaves me personally with a lot of apprehension on your characterization of these situations. Because of personal experience and observation, that I find it very concerning. I also don't understand, because I did request a response to my letter to the board. And there were specific questions to you, and you never even acknowledged that email until I had to follow up. We had multiple interactions since, which I have left for you to initiate that conversation, and you haven't. You've avoided it. Once again, further confirming my deep suspicions.
Perhaps a meeting isn't open.
I thought so, especially for somebody that likes to regurgitate transparency and communications. Because what you tend to do is you say that publicly, but privately, you don't follow through. You're overwhelmed, you're out of your depth. Clearly, I mean, I voted for you, I campaigned for you, I persuaded a lot of people to do the same, and I had to apologize to all of them. I mean, and it wasn't that we had an excessively high bar for you to rise up to, and that's kind of the thing that's been very deeply disappointing to me personally, is that it was a very low bar that we had, and somehow you couldn't even meet or exceed that. And every time I think you can't get lower, you somehow find ways and rise to the occasion.
I'm not saying.
Thank you for your concerns. We're gonna move on. Anyway, so that's what I had for general deliberations.
I don't have anything today.
There's also a bully violation. You ever done anything about that?
Yes, we're addressing it. And I can't talk about it because of the nature of it.
I don't even know who was involved. I know it's been in other things that I've read, and that's where it's been followed up.
Yes, we're following up on it. All right, that brings us to the end of our agenda. Thank you, everybody, for your attendance today. County Court will stand recess.
I was at my high school class reunion in September and any incentive.
Like 3 or 4 times. Actually has some.
I feel like, I was surgery.
Are you? All right.